Thanks again to Alex Cooper and Chris Gerald, our executive producers, who have arranged everything and organized things and make my life a lot easier. And our next guest, I think is going to have a great story. Sam Asano of Umelink, correct?
Yes.
Now, Sam, before we get into Umelink, you are, I'm being told, the inventor of the fax machine and the point-of-sale sign-in screen.
That's
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. I grew up during World War II. And when the war ended, with the result of Japan losing the war, the entire nation goes through a very deep recrimination. Same with Germany. You know, the sort of a veil of the feeling is that we are inferior. This is like losing a game in football, but it is much, a million times deeper.
Yeah.
Now, I became, at the high school, I became ham radio, you know, these people.
I had them.
And one day I got the pirate version of, you see, Japan didn't have much money, so I had to, there's a lot of pirate book publisher, which they buy one from the United States, make a mimeograph copy and sell it to kids. Anyway, I bought a book called Frederick Terman, who is a Stanford University's professor. His book's name is Radio Engineering. At that time, in 1940, it was the Bible. And in that one of the chapter was that the radar, the concept of the radar, was invented, was arrived at by Americans, British, and Japanese almost at the same time. When I read that, I was surprised that I thought we were a very inferior nation, but it wasn't really that. The idea was we had an idea. Now, the problem that I saw is in the Midway, there was a battle called the Midway Battle.
There was a movie called The Midway, too.
And Japan lost because we didn't have the radar, whereby American fleets had a radar. So I was wondering, that I was a real, probably little kid, why is it that we arrived at the same conclusion about the inventive idea, and we didn't make it practical? So I decided that I should go to America and learn how the idea gets transferred to a product. And so I applied to many times to Fulbright scholarship, and then second times I was accepted. And I came to MIT. That's where the radar was developed. And so from the very beginning, I was more interested in hardware than just the theory. MIT was a lot of theory, but you know, at that time the MIT was slowly walking away from the sort of practical engineering into a much more, you know, full of equations, and I didn't like that. Anyway, Fulbright committee made a decision to loosen up the people who come from England or Germany, a place like this, to allow them to stay in this country, which was called brain drain by English and Germans, because they were young people, came here, learned something, and then want to stay. So the British government was the first one to take an action, saying that we are out of Fulbright scholarships. And so the United States got a little jolted and said, okay, from now on, everybody, without exception, must go back where they come from for 2 years. Or I was already here, and that rule is going to apply to me. And so I went to my professor and I said, what should I do? I wanted to defect. And he said, well, there are two ways to do it. One is you become a soldier. I instantly said, I don't want that. Second is that you work for a weapons manufacturer. And then for 2 years later, you can be free. And I didn't think it was a bad idea. 2 years, you can learn something.
Like a Raytheon or someone.
Yeah, somebody like Boeing or,
I use a local company.
Yeah, I see. So luck had it that NASA was under tremendous pressure to make themselves equal to Russians. The Russians had a tremendous capability, still has a rocket, a powerful, large rocket. It wasn't invented by them, it's just the Germans,
They took the German engineers at the end of the Second World War, right?
Yeah.
They split them up.
That's right. And then under the President Kennedy, they started feeding NASA a lot of money. And they told MIT that you could apply there, and it's kind of equivalent to weapons. So I applied to NASA, and I was instantly accepted. And the idea was to launch a rocket that goes up to see the X-ray radiation, because X-ray doesn't penetrate in through the air, so you have to go up there. And these called rockets were sounding rockets, and it's about that diameter, it's about 30 foot long. And I had to develop X-ray sensitive camera that goes on top of the rocket. And the rocket was basically a dead copy of German product. And there were a few Germans still working there on the Wallops Island, which is a top secret base on the Delmarva Peninsula, which is the other side, the Atlantic side of the other side of the Chesapeake Bay. Okay. Now, the rocket uses liquid oxygen. So when the launch day comes, slowly the liquid oxygen is pumped in. And as a result, the rocket body becomes very cold. What happens is that in the electronic circuit that I've designed, it's very cold, and the performance becomes crazy. So you have to follow by the phone to adjust it. Now, people who are on the tower, there are two people, and they don't really like to be in there because liquid oxygen is basically a form of a fire in liquid. If you have a shoe bottom that has a little metal on it, and then if you strike the stairs, then you probably are history. It blows up. And there was an accident in Cape Canaveral and killed a bunch of space people. When the liquid oxygen burns, there's nothing left. And so these people are very afraid of it. It can happen. Now, I was so surprised to hear that they're from Huntsville, Alabama. And I don't understand their language. And they're screaming at the phone because they want to get back down to. And I was only a year and a half to 2 years from Japan. And as a result, my problem is that they want you to push it hard, and they are screaming, and I don't understand what they're saying. As a result, I decided that this system just doesn't work. I would like to translate the communication into fax-like affair. Write it down. Now, at that time, this was 1961, 62, fax machine was about half the size of this disk and cost like $15,000. As the Army system, I went to base commander's office and said I'd like a pair of fax machine. They practically laughed at, and you weren't here last year. I said, yeah, I wasn't here. I just arrived. He said, well, then you didn't fill in the requisition last year, so therefore you can't get it. That's a sort of a bureaucracy for you. And anyway, I decided to take a look at the fax machine inside and try to copy it. You couldn't do that. It was so packed with machines inside. So I decided that I will do it my own way. And I used only one motor and a tiny little machine, and it worked. Some people in the base suggested that, hey, this is a great invention. Why don't you take it to venture capitalists and try to raise money and start manufacturing? I thought that was an interesting idea. I was only like 27 years old. So I visited 23 venture capitalists in Boston area. They all laughed me out the door. There is no such market. Don't bother with it. The last one was most impressive. There was a division of Xerox, the venture capital company, and this older guy sort of patted my shoulder at the door and said, you know, Sam, you're a very good engineer, but you're wasting a lot of time, your life. Don't do it. And that was the last parting word. And how it got developed afterwards is the Japanese government heard about it, so MIT linked it. And they said that their language character, they're very much more complicated pictographs. They're perfect for fax machines.
Right.
And so that's how they licensed it from me.
So, Sam, just to fast forward, because we've used up a lot of our time already.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I'd like to understand, right now you're doing with a product that helps elderly with their
That's
falls.
correct.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes. This country has two silos of population. Young people who work and older people who are retired. And those two silos don't get connected very well. In Japan or in China, people share the roof, and so older people's opinion about things does penetrate into younger people. And as a result, all the inventions that take place are more fit for the older generation. We don't have that here. While young people just key on cell phones, and the older people are left alone. So I figured that that's a grand market for me if I can successfully develop a product for the older people. We have right now 49 million.
And what is that product?
That product, biggest product that I have came up with is a fall detector. There's 1 million people fall every month.
And do they wear it?
Well, they have to wear it.
Right.
Something has to be worn.
Right.
But mine is automatic. The difference between mine is that if you fall, it gets reported. The current product like these,
Let's see.
these are my so-called competitor.
Yeah.
You have to push the button.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you fall, that's not first thing in your mind. You're so painful, or you're passed out,
Right.
and your body is contorted. And so automatic is the only way. And then I've done it. And that is the first product. And it saves it saves the Medicare B, that's a hospitalization, $60 billion a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
And is it sold? How is it sold, the product?
Well, I am not selling it yet. I'm going through field test.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good.
And then the second product that I will come is a fraud prevention product. All the people are always being targeted by professional
I
fraud.
just had on my cell phone IRS phone calls. It's all fraud.
Right, yeah. And if you pay $250 today, it will be okay. We can talk to the IRS and stuff like that.
Yeah.
$60 billion a year.
Wow. Can you tell us how people can find you at Umelink?
Yes, well, you can come to... Right now, I am not putting a lot of effort in marketing. I just want to absolutely make sure that product is failure-free.
Right. But still, how would people find you if they're looking for you in the company? Is there a website?
Yes.
You want to tell us where that is?
Well, the umilink.com is my website.
Right.
Yeah.
As you develop the product, will you come back again and show it to us? So
Sure.
we can show it to our...
Yeah, I didn't bring the product itself because I thought it was a radio. So, but...
Well, we have no YouTube. You're going to have to come back.
Yeah.
now that we're out of the Second World War, we can start talking about what you're building today.
Okay.
Those are good stories too. I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Mhm.
Thank you for everything that
You're
you've done
welcome.
and your contributions.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We're going to take a break.